Hi, this is Shu Rui. In this talk, we provide an overview of our paper, How Has Forking Changed in the Last 20 Years? A Study of Hard Forks on GitHub to the ICSI 2020 conference. This is a joint work with Bogdan and Christian. A shameless plug first. I recently graduated from CMU and will be joining University of Toronto as an assistant professor this fall. I'm actively looking for students at different levels to join my research group. If you're interested, please let me know. Also, CMU ISR, where I just graduated from, is also looking for students to join the software engineering PhD program. If you are interested, please contact us. Alright, let's get started. Forking means copying the source code from the original project and then starting an independent development. Traditionally, the goal for forking was to supersede or replace the original one and split off the community. There are various reasons why developers fork. First, a need that cannot be fulfilled by the original project is the most common motivation. Second, some contributors created forks when they feel their feedback is not heard or maintainers are accepting patches too slowly. A recent example is the debating of whether to fork the Docker project or not. Researchers have found many other motivations as well, such as discontinuation of an inactive project or for commercial, legal, or personal reasons. Traditionally, the forking phenomenon was rare, but there were a few extremely successful forks. Here we present some successful forking events in the timeline. But in the last around 12 years or so, the fork-based development has been introduced. This is one particular innovation originated by the open source and has since spread to commercials that has completely changed how people collaborate to build software systems together. These days, there are different social coding platforms support this fork-based development. The definition of forking is still cloning the upstream and have an independent development. But the motivation has changed to, if you want to contribute to the community, please fork it. This way of developing has been extremely popular with millions of forks. So we have seen two different types of forks. To distinguish these two, we identify the old notion of forking, meaning people create forks with the goal of splitting the community as hard forks, and the GitHub-style forks, meaning forking with the intention of contributing back as social forks. Hard forks have been discussed controversially throughout the history of open source software, and back then, there was a strong norm against forking. As I've talked about before, after the fork-based development was introduced, it has completely changed how people collaborate to build software. Here I'm showing you the timeline of some popular open source platforms based on Google Trend. GitHub is by far the dominant platform and has been key in establishing the social forking phenomenon. Although social forking is super popular, we still observed lots of hard forks exist in the social coding sites. One of the examples that we have seen is the 3D printer firmware community. Nowadays, there are thousands of 3D printers, and actually these are all hard forks of a few original ones. And we've seen people are confused by so many similar projects and struggling about which one should be used as a starting point. This is essentially the same concerns that people had for the traditional forks. Therefore, we are curious about how have perceptions and practices around hard forks changed. As the motivation for forking I've talked about before, have been primarily studied on SourceForge before the event of fork-based development. In contrast to the strong norm against forking back then, we conjecture that the promotion of social forks on sites like GitHub may have encouraged forking and lowered the bar also for hard forks. And we argue that it is time to update and deepen our understanding around hard forks in a social coding environment. To achieve our goal, we designed mixed-method exploratory research strategy by combining repository mining with interviews. We designed heuristics to identify hard forks, and eventually we collected 15,000 hard forks in total. Next, we would like to identify the evolution patterns for a hard fork. We first create commit history graph, which is a custom visualization of commit activities of the fork and the upstream. With these plots, we can quickly inspect development activities before and after the forking point and the interaction between fork and the upstream. We then use card sorting to identify common patterns. After several iterations, we arrived at a stable list of 15 patterns. Afterward, we automate the process to analyze all hard forks. Results shows that most hard forks are created as forks of active projects. And there are a substantial number of cases where hard forks are created to revive a dead project. Both the upstream repository and hard forks remain active for extended period of time are not common. And the takeaway message here is that hard fork is still a rare phenomenon nowadays. To explore motivations and perceptions of hard forks, we conducted 18 interviews for both open source and upstream owners in total. Regarding the motivation of hard forks, the interviewees give reasons that align well with prior findings. One of the interesting observations is that many hard forks were initially created with the intention of contributing back to the upstream, which is a social fork. But when they faced obstacles, they decided to continue on their own. For example, one hard fork owner with 400 subforks mentioned that they started by submitting pull requests, but with no response. Then more and more people started to fork their own fork. Overall, a theme emerged throughout our interviews is that hard forks are not likely to be avoidable because of a project's tension between being specific and being general. In this context, a family of related projects that serve slightly different needs or target populations but still coordinate may be a way to balance the trade-off. As our research questions is to understand how have perceptions and practices around hard forks changed. The interview result shows that the perception of forking has significantly changed to positive. But we've also heard concerns about community fragmentation. Therefore, we argue that it is necessary to explicitly understand hard forks as part of a larger community. Specifically, we could build a software bot as an early warning system that alerts upstream maintainers of emerging hard forks, which maintainers could use to encourage collaboration over computation and fragmentation. Also, the bot could detect intention and essence of the novel contribution behind the fork. Moreover, designing a dashboard to show how multiple projects and important hard forks interrelates, as I have shown here, would help developers to maintain an overview of the larger community and encourage potential collaboration opportunities. To sum up, in this study, we automatically detected hard forks and their evolution patterns and interviewed open source developers to study perceptions and practices in a modern coding environment. We found that perceptions and practices of hard forks have indeed changed significantly and become mostly positive, but with some concerns of community fragmentation. Last, we also suggested directions for future research and tooling ideas to facilitate efficient collaboration to build better software and ecosystems. Thank you very much.